Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Welcome first to all the new people, all the new subscribers, both here and over on Patreon. I guess it must be the time of year that more people start watching videos and joining up, because we've certainly had a lot of new folks join here and over on Patreon. So I want to welcome you. Uh, just a couple of things. Be nice, and because we got nice people here. And I don't put up with any, calling people names or trashy kind of stuff, because this is the place that I want people to be able to come here and feel comfortable to leave their comments and read comments and kind of feel good about being here. The other thing is, if you put a link in your comment, I'm not telling you that you can't, but I'm telling you that it won't get to the comments. It'll be held for my review, and I don't always get to the reviews as often as I want to. There are times that I'll go a couple of weeks and I won't check the ones that are being held. So if your comment doesn't show up there, that could be why. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. Anyway, if I do put the links to my books and my Patreon channel down there, if you're interested. Tonight, Kelly and I went to a dinner theater, and it reminded me, and it was a great show, and it was great food, and it was nice to get out, and it reminded me, as the show kind of reminded me of something that's going on in my current book. Now, I won't spoil the story for any of you stonemotters, which is what we call those people who have read my books, the Stonemont series. I won't ruin the story for you, so I won't tell you, but it made me think of something that's going on in the series right now, as well as something that I've been thinking about doing a video on. And again, for you new people, I often start my videos a little bit with an introduction like this of what made me think about this one, because just because I guess that's the way I am. This is not the channel to come to if you want somebody to try to scare you to death or tell you that everything's going to be horrible and all that. And I don't start everyone off with, it's going to end tomorrow, things like that. I'm a little more laid back. This is a preparedness channel for serious people who will think about things, who think long term. So that's what we're about. So before I get into it very much more, excuse me one moment. I'll wet my whistle here and we'll get started. It's a Lone Star night for my Texas friends. It made me tonight think about something that I often say to people when they ask me how much they should prepare. And it ties in with the tagline that I always put at the end of all the videos, and that is, at the end, I say, we prepare well today because we want to live well tomorrow. And my answer to the question, how much should I prepare, is always this. That depends. How well do you want to live? Too many people, I think, come at preparedness with a very short-term view of things. They think only about surviving. Certainly those who think about bugging out too much, they're just simply thinking about surviving. If you got to live out of your bug-out bag, it's not going to last very long. And if you do, your quality of life is going to be extremely poor. And you can say, well, at least I'm alive. Yes, you are alive, and you may stay alive for as long as your skills enable you to, but the quality of your life is going to suck. And if you've got a family, a wife and kids, or a husband and kids, because I know probably half of our serious preparedness people, it seems to be women, and I found that to also be true in the families that I know. It's often the woman who's carrying the major load of preparedness for the family. If you've got a family to keep going, really think hard about how long you think you can survive out in the woods in what you're carrying in a backpack, and their little backpacks along with you. It's if it gets into the winter months, it's not going to last very long, and the things that you're going to have to contend with are too many to talk about in this. I want to get to the idea of how important it is to decide exactly how well you want to live, and I would suggest that you want to live well. Okay, the only people who don't think that way are those who think with a fatalistic, woe is me, I can't do this, things are going to be horrible kind of person. There are people who just have to have problems in their life. They have to have negative feelings in their life, and it fills some psychological need. I guess I could get into that in depth, but who wants to hear about that, right? I don't. It doesn't mean that things are going to be easy, but what I mean is that, like they say, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Well, it's the same kind with this. The more prepared you are on anything, the better things are going to go. It's surprising how well things can go when you put in the proper thought and preparation behind something. Doesn't matter whether it's prepared for, a grid down situation or building a fence or whatever. When I often talk to people when they wonder, what they should do, where they should start, if they should start from, getting a month's worth of food or water or shelter or blah, 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 like this. And I also say the same thing to my kids. I use the example of a puzzle. Y'all ever put together puzzles, tabletop puzzles? They're great activities for snowy days and things. When I was a kid, it seemed like there was always a puzzle going on the dining room table. And, sometimes you'd sit around for hours together as a family doing it, and sometimes you just see one member of the family over there kind of looking at it for a while and spending a few minutes, and other times you might just walk over and take a look and go, oh, I think that piece goes right there, and it sure does, and then you keep looking and you can't find the next piece, right? Well, I ask people, and I ask my kids, I said, do you know what the most important piece of a puzzle set is? And most people will say, well, it's the edge pieces, right? Because you got the straight edges, and you get those worked up together, and now you start filling in, and it's easier to, start putting the pieces together by color and texture and things like that, and then you can kind of work them around and fill in from the edges. And I say, no, it's not. The most important piece of a puzzle is the picture on the front of the box, because that's how the puzzle is supposed to look when you're done. Okay. Now you think about that. If you just had a whole bunch of pieces and you didn't have the picture to show you what it's supposed to look like, and you just dumped all these people out of a paper sack onto the table, you wouldn't know what it is. You wouldn't know what it's supposed to be. And it's the same with preparedness, or it's the same in goal setting for life, really. If you don't have an idea where you want to get to, it makes it a lot more difficult to take each step down the road. Now, you might not have a goal in your life. Maybe you just want to live, life day to day. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when it comes to preparing for something, that's a recipe for disaster, and you don't want to do that. So when we look at what is the picture of preparedness that we want to have, so that we know kind of where to find those pieces and fill it in, that's why I suggest you determine how well do you want to live. And I discourage people from reacting to the statements or the negativities of others. If you do that, you'll find that you're being limited by people who are limiting themselves, and that's a common thing. It happens all the time. Negative people want to hold you back because it's easier for them to hold you back than to work and try to keep up with you. So they just rather, they tell you it can't be done, and then you remain back in the morass of failure that they've become comfortable in, and now they're all happy because you're there with them. Okay, it's a common and age-old dilemma of life and dealing with negative people, and it's just like on some of the videos that I put on here, and people say, well, you have, that can't be done. Not everybody can do that. And you have a very optimistic viewpoint. Well, I don't know if I have a very optimistic viewpoint, but I have a very positive outlook. And that's what you need to have. That's what I encourage you to have. So when you're looking at the picture of the puzzle that you want to put together, what is it? What does it look like? When I wrote my books, the Stonemont series, the first one's the reversion. Again, the links are down there if you're interested. I did it as kind of a story that would explain in great detail how a group of people could survive a CME, how they could rebuild. It pretty much covers all the facets that you can think of. How they could rebuild community, how they could provide for themselves, protect themselves, develop community, and how they would try to reintroduce society, into a world that had been decimated. More than decimated, because decimated just means 10% are dead. In this, I don't know what 90% dead, if there's a term for that. Maybe I'll look that up. But, if most of the people around are dead, that's what I wanted to talk about. How do we rebuild from that? Well, I don't think that we're necessarily dealing with anything like that coming up right now. It could happen. Scientists tell us it's going to happen at some time. But is that going to happen in the next year? I'm not, probably not. The probabilities are that it won't. It could, but the probabilities are that it won't. We are concerned with other things right now. But whatever it is we're concerned with, we need to have that idea. We need to have that picture in our head. How do we want to be living? And how do we get there? And again, back up, I think I kind of went off on a side note there. That's why I wrote the book, trying to cover every little thing that I could think of the different things that would go together, of why some groups succeed, of why other groups don't succeed and fail. Okay? And so much of that has to do with planning, number one, certainly, but secondly, a vision. And what I see too seldom in the preparedness world is that vision. Now, there are some out there who do have that vision, and they're planning for certain things, and they are intentional in their developments of those plans. But in most cases, I don't see that. I see a kind of an attitude of just, barely scratching out an existence, and in which case you're pretty much at the mercy of whatever force comes along that's stronger or meaner than you are. And the end game of that is, fairly vague. It's more about survival. I don't care to just survive, and I don't think most of you do either. I think most of you like to live well. Most of you probably do live well, and you want to continue to live well. And the question is, how do you continue to live well after one, catastrophe or another? It could be something small, it could be something major, but anything that disrupts your normal life, or the normal flow of your life, is something that you need to contend with. It's something that you need to be prepared for. So this is what I suggest when people ask me. You have to have an idea. You have to have a mental picture. It has to be the goal that you've set that's out there. How do I want to live after fill in the blank, right? Okay. Now it's just a matter. Now you've got the picture, and essentially, you've got the outline. Now you're just filling in the pieces. If you do that, you're going to be a lot more successful, at building some kind of integrated and comprehensive uh, preparedness plan. Without that, you're just going to be kind of scrambling around and getting what you can, and you're never going to be sure whether you're uh, where you need to be or not. Um, I would hate, and I'm a realist. I say that I intend to live well. I am a realist. I know how horrible things can be. I have a background that has shown me the horrors of life. So I'm not speaking from some uh, naive place of inexperience. And that's why I stress this so much, that even people with inexperience seem to just grab on to uh, the negativity that holds them back, and holds you back if you listen to them. And I think that's simply because they don't know what else to do. When we talk about politics, if you've watched some of the other videos, when I talk about politics and I explain the importance of the political process, I get these simplistic, idiotic comments on here, most of which I dump and block them because they're idiots, and I don't have time for idiots. Something like, if you think that voting works, you don't understand, and you didn't see what happened in the last election. And I think, my gosh, if that's all, the deeper you go, buddy, I don't have time for you here. As I explained in a couple back, and some people got it very, very well, and I'll say that in a minute, is that voting is the smallest part of politics. Okay, so when people who don't want to put in the effort themselves, whether that's mental effort or physical effort, emotional effort, whatever, when they don't want to put that in themselves, they simply fall back to a default position of, oh, it can't be done. You can't do that. If you think you can do that, you're crazy, you're stupid, you're naive, you're, whatever. I tend to let those people wallow in their own failure and their determination to remain a failure. I say here, for the newer people, I say that I've got, I think, the smartest commenters on YouTube. And now that you're here with us, I suggest that when you come and watch a video, read the comments down there. You're going to find some smart folks and some good advice beyond what I give. And it's either even gets deeper over on Patreon. If you head over there, you'll get a lot more than you're paying for, because we got some sharp people here. I also hope that you will contribute to the comments, in a positive way. But that's really what I wanted to say today. Quality of life is really what it's all about. Quality of life is what we prepare for. None of us, want to go back and living like the pioneers did if we can help it. We have good lives. We've worked hard for our good lives. Our country, the generations before us have worked hard to get us where we are today. I enjoy indoor plumbing. Okay, I enjoy being able to flip on a switch and that light come on. Okay? I enjoy most of the comforts of modern life. Can I live without them? Yes, I can. I can live very well without them. I have done it. I've done it for extended periods of time. Doesn't mean I want to. Okay, that's why we work to improve our lives. So that's what my message would be tonight, is that as you think about your preparedness journey, whether you're at the very beginning or whether you've been at it for a long time, think about the quality and think about building quality with every step that you make, so that, as I said in one of my books, if it all went to the dickens, you wouldn't notice. Now I know that's kind of hyperbole. You'd notice, but you don't want to notice too much. You don't want it to affect your life any more than absolutely necessary. Will that take work? Yes, it will take work. Will that take money? Yeah, it's going to take some money. Will that take planning? Yes, it's going to take planning. But the alternative to that is what? Sitting back and not thinking about it, not working towards it, not saving for it. I don't see the benefit in that. So I think most of you are on the same page on this. many of you who are newer, I know I get a lot of comments that people say, well, I never thought of it that way. And I understand that, because the preparedness community is not full of that kind of thinking, is it? I mean, it's all about surviving, you know. Well, let's do think about surviving, but let's get past the surviving and think about living, and living well. And think about the things that it's going to take for you to do that, and set that as your goal, and just start working at it. And if you keep working at it, you're going to get closer and closer and closer to it all the time. And then when it really comes home, hopefully things are going to be set up. You will have set up things very well for you and yours. So I'll leave it at that. Again, thinking of my friends down in Texas. Mm-hmm. And I'll sign off tonight. Wish you all a good night. And say, like I always do, remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I can't stress that well enough. So you all think about it. Start preparing a little bit better, or prepare well so you can live well tomorrow. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.